What in the hell do you think you're doing? The voice of the system shrieked in my mind, a tinny, frantic sound against the backdrop of dripping blood. That's Oliver, the story's male lead. If he dies, you're finished too. The crimson drops fell from the tip of my sword, each one a tiny period marking the end of a sentence I was tired of reading. I couldn't bring myself to care. I don't give a damn, I muttered, the words a low growl. I've already died 6 times. Is it really too much to ask to stab him just once? I rolled my eyes so hard I felt a strain in their sockets. Besides, the bastard wasn't even dead. As expected of the protagonist, the chosen one, the universe's darling, I had aimed squarely for his heart, a perfect strike born from the frustration of 7 lifetimes, and yet, somehow, Eurostrade D still missed by a hair's breadth. Looking down at Oliver, sprawled in a rapidly expanding pool of his own lifeblood, I felt a grim sense of copyright Vu. In a year, he would be the one standing over me, his blade poised to deliver the final blow. Yen. The thought ignited a fresh wave of viciousness within me. I raised my sword, the polished steel glinting coldly under the dim light, ready to finish the job and break this cursed cycle. The blade descended in a silver arc, a silent promise of oblivion. Just as the razor-sharp tip was mere inches from his throat, his eyes snapped open. A violent shudder racked my body, my hand spasming involuntarily. The sword veered off course, its edge grazing his cheek and leaving a thin, elegant line of red against his pale skin. Damn it, what a waste. Setting aside his homicidal tendencies, Oliver Eurostrade's face was a masterpiece of creation, a handsome, sculpted visage that held a natural, almost feral charm. Even with this new scar, his beauty wasn't marred. If anything, it added a tragic, broken allure, a hint of danger that was utterly captivating. His eyes, dark and fathomless, stared at me with an unnerving calmness. I instinctively took a small step back. This Marna Euros, no matter how Eurostrade D groveled, catered, and fawned over him in my previous lives, his favorability toward me had remained stubbornly, insultingly in the negatives. It was only in the fleeting moments before he killed me that the damn number would grudgingly crawl its way to 0. The memory of those 6 failures fueled a bonfire in my gut. Fine. If I was doomed to repeat this tragedy, I might as well go out with a bang. If I don't turn him into a human pinction today and vent the accumulated hatred of 7 lifetimes, then my name isn't James. A metallic ding echoed in my head. Male leader Eurostrade's favorability has increased to 20. What? My mind went utterly blank. I stared, dumbfounded, at the blood-soaked man before me. Was Oliver a masochist? Had I been playing this game entirely wrong for 6 whole lifetimes? Before I could process this bizarre turn of events, a piercing shriek cut through the air. The brothel's madam, her face a mask of fury, pushed through the gawking crowd and stormed towards us. Her eyes took in the senior Euros, me with a bloody sword, Oliver bleeding on the floor Euros, and she let out a theatrical gasp. With a complete disregard for Oliver's grave injuries, she lunged forward, grabbed a fistful of his dark hair, and began slamming his head against the hard-packed dirt floor. You worthless piece of trash! You have no sense, do you? How dare you offend the young Master James? Get on your knees and apologize this instant. Oliver Eurostrade's head hit the ground with a series of sickening thuds, and fresh blood began to well from his scalp, matting his hair. But even through the brutal assault, his gaze never faltered. He looked up at me, a strange, almost mocking half-smile playing on his lips. Then, Male leader Euros trade S favorability -5. Favorability -5. Stop, I roared, a cold sweat breaking out across my back. I lunged forward, shoving the madam away before she could force Oliver's head down again. What was happening? I thought you were a masochist. You should be enjoying this. Why is his favorability plummeting? Seeing the number above his head reset to a perfect, infuriating 0, I kicked him in a fit of pure frustration. The moody, unpredictable bastard. Then, male leader Euros trade S favorability has increased by 10. I fell silent once more, a profound sense of bewilderment washing over me. Could it be? Was it possible that he was only submissive to me? Seeing my silence, the madam, ever the sycophant, resumed her tirade against Oliver. Hurry up! Beg young Master James to calm his anger. Oliver, a pathetic and bloodied figure, remained unnervingly composed. His voice, when he finally spoke, was steady and clear. I have never met the young Master James. I do not know how I might have offended him. My heart skipped a beat. This was bad. He was right. In this timeline, we hadn't officially met yet. I was just a rich young master who had appeared out of nowhere and stabbed him. As I fumbled for a response, Oliver let out a low, self-deprecating chuckle. My life is worthless. Why not let me be the second young master's dog? It might provide you with some amusement in the days to come. Something was wrong. This was all terribly, horribly wrong. My mission was to kill him, to end the cycle. How in the world did I end up taking him back to my mansion and saving his life? Oliver lay on the guest bed, lost in a deep, exhausted sleep. The significant blood loss had leached all the color from his face, leaving his skin as pale as porcelain. Host, he said he wants to be your dog. Does this mean our mission to win his favor is finally going to succeed? The system chirped with idiotic excitement. I had a sudden, violent urge to reach into my own mind and throttle the forgetful little fool. Do you honestly think he means it? That he genuinely wants to be my dog? Go on, check his favorability rating yourself. There was a pause, then a deflated squeak. Euros, it's 0. Exactly. Still 0. I nodded, a strange sense of satisfaction settling over me. Are you kidding me? This is the best score Euros trade V ever achieved this early in the timeline. After 7 rebirths, a stable 0 is a monumental victory. It means his heart isn't completely made of stone. The male lead is truly a difficult target. The system sighed, its digital morale apparently crushed by both mine and Oliver's unorthodox behavior. Eater Euros trade S, not that he's unyielding, I said softly, my gaze fixed on Oliver's peaceful, sleeping face. A pang of guilt, familiar and unwelcome, twisted in my stomach. Anyone would find it difficult to harbor warm feelings for the son of their family's murderer, wouldn't they? My dear father, the esteemed Viscount Matthew, was the man who had orchestrated the downfall and execution of Oliver's entire family. This was the horrific truth I had unearthed during my second rebirth. The Zir family had been a line of loyal, heroic military commanders, pillars of the empire. But my father, driven by jealousy and ambition, had fabricated evidence of treason, leading to a royal decree for the execution of their entire clan. At the time, to project an image of magnanimity, the emperor had issued a special edict, sparing one descendant to carry on the family name. And so, Oliver was pardoned, stripped of his nobility, and cast out as a commoner. Everyone called him lucky, a survivor, but they didn't understand. Being spared was the cruelest torture of all. That imperial decree was not an act of mercy, It was a life sentence of suffering. The capital's high society was a viper's nest of snobs and sycophants, with my father secretly pulling strings and fanning the flames of gossip. Oliver, the fallen noble, was relentlessly tormented, publicly humiliated, and eventually sold into the very brothel where I had found him. But no one knew the truth. Beneath the veneer of a broken commoner, Oliver was biding his time. He was a homeless, vicious dog sharpening its teeth in the shadows. And when it finally decided to strike back, it would unleash a maelstrom of blood and vengeance. I was just one of the many casualties destined to fall on his path to retribution. Though Oliver had ended my life 6 times, I found it impossible to truly hate him. It wasn't because I possessed some noble, forgiving spirit. It was because I understood that his revenge was never personal. My father had annihilated his family, so he, in turn, would annihilate my father's. It was a simple, brutal equation. An eye for an eye. That's why, for my first 6 rebirths, I had desperately tried to change the outcome. I suppressed my arrogant, domineering nature, treated him with the utmost gentleness, and granted his every whim, all in a futile attempt to tame the rabid dog that had hidden its fangs so well. It was all for nothing. You don't hate him. Then why did you pick up a sword and try to kill him the moment you woke up in this life? Host, you lie without even blinking. The System Euro's trade's accusation was sharp. Cough. Coffer Euros, he killed me 6 times. Even a cornered rabbit will bite back, I protested indignantly. As I turned, my heart froze. Oliver was awake. His dark eyes were fixed on me, and our gazes locked. For a terrifying moment, my mind went blank, flooded with the single, fervent prayer that he couldn't hear my internal conversation with the system. His gaze lingered on me for only a second before dropping. The intensity veiled once more. He adopted a look of perfect submission and began to move, as if to climb out of bed. Does young Master James have any orders for me? He was a masterful actor. How many times had I been deceived by this harmless, subservient facade? This time, I was too weary to play along. My fate was sealed anyway. I was going to die sooner or later. I might as well have some fun. Oh, if you truly wish to be a dog, I said, a lazy smirk on my face, shouldn't you at least address me as master? Oliver's head snapped up, his eyes meeting my defiant ones. He hesitated for only a fraction of a second before suddenly reaching out and yanking me forward. Caught completely off guard, I tumbled onto the bed, nearly landing on his bandaged wound. His warm breath ghosted against my ear as he leaned in close, his voice a low, husky whisper that seemed to wrap around the words, making them sticky and intimate. Master. My entire body went rigid. I shoved him away as if I'd been burned, but in my panic, I used too much force. A pained gasp escaped his lips as his chest wound tore open, fresh blood instantly seeping through the white doors. His forehead was beaded with sweat from the pain, yet his eyes held a dark, triumphant smile. Ding! Male leader Euros trade S favorability +5. In the days that followed, news of how young Master James had brutally stabbed the sole heir of the Zir family spread through the capital like wildfire. I paid it no mind. My reputation as an arrogant and unruly tyrant was already well established. This was just another outrageous act to add to the list. Oliver, I called, casually tossing a small wooden box onto his lap. Master, he replied. He was growing alarmingly comfortable with the title, his delivery smooth and unblinking. Sometimes, his tone even carried a disturbing undercurrent of something almost amorous. Put it on. He opened the box, and for the first time, his placid expression froze. Inside lay a collar crafted from fine brown cowhide with a delicate iron ring fixed in the center. It was a tool for breaking wild, untamable beasts. To place it on a person was a profound and blatant insult. I had steeled myself for this. If I was destined to die by his hand, I might as well indulge in tormenting him to my heart's content. What? Did you not understand my command? I squinted at him, my voice dripping with as much arrogance as I could muster. My lord, you jest, he said, his voice smooth as silk. I am merely surprised that you Euros acquainted with such particular interests. He didn't erupt in rage as I had anticipated. He showed no signs of humiliation or unwillingness. Instead, Euros ding. Male leader Euros trade S favorability plus 20. I had almost forgotten. Oliver's mind was a twisted, abnormal thing. Before I could even recover from my shock, he had fastened the collar around his own neck. The dark brown leather contrasted sharply with the pale skin and the bulging veins of his throat. Combined with a now scabbing scar on his face, he exuded a wild, savage air. He looked like a ferocious stray, beaten and broken-legged in a back alley, but still baring its teeth in a furious, silent snarl. Suddenly, Oliver frowned. He raised a hand, his fingers tracing the iron ring on the collar. Then, slowly, he pulled a short, thin needle from a hidden compartment on the side and looked at me, his gaze heavy with meaning. My expression shifted instantly. That needle was concealed with deadly precision. A careless touch, a moment of inattention, and it could easily cost someone their life. That wasn't my idea, I blurted out, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. Oliver said nothing, his face an unreadable mask. It was impossible to tell if he believed me. He reached up, wiped the single bead of blood that the needle prick had drawn from his neck, and then, to my utter astonishment, smeared the blood across my lips. He stared at my now crimson mouth, and the emotion swirling in his eyes intensified, growing darker and more possessive. The next second, he kissed me, a fierce, bruising assault. The hostility that he usually kept so masterfully hidden erupted, sweeping over me like a tidal wave. On pure instinct, I shoved him away with all my might and delivered a resounding slap across his face. The sharp crack echoed in the silent room. A red handprint immediately blossomed on Oliver's cheek, but he didn't seem angry. Instead, a slow smile spread across his lips as he captured my wrist. Did you hurt your hand, master? Ding, favorability plus 15. Terrified by his reaction, I snatched my hand back and fled the room, my heart hammering against my ribs. Was he completely insane? That slap had been hard. So hard, in fact, that when Oliver appeared at the dinner party at the Yonjan Viscount's residence, the expressions of every guest in the room were a sight to behold. Oliver, what happened to your face? Shall I have the family physician take a look? My father, Matthew, sat at the head of the table, his voice dripping with false concern. Oliver is merely a commoner. There is no need for the Yonjan Viscount to trouble himself, Oliver replied, his tone perfectly neutral, neither humble nor arrogant. My father was about to press further, but my eldest brother, William, could no longer contain himself. James, father is entertaining esteemed guests tonight. It is entirely inappropriate for you to bring the son of a convicted traitor to this table. Whispers erupted around the room. My father chided my brother, telling him not to dredge up old wounds, but I had seen this pathetic theatrical performance countless times before. This wine is excellent, I declared loudly, ignoring William completely. I was kneeling before a low table, and after taking a sip of osmanthus wine, I popped a peanut into my mouth. With a swift motion, I reached out, pulled the stoic Oliver into my arms, and pressed the half-empty cup to his lips. William was so enraged by my brazen behavior that he crushed the wine cup in his hand. The fake smile on my father's face faltered for a moment before he quickly composed himself, pretending not to notice and urging the guests to drink. Oliver looked at the cup I held, then drank from the exact spot my lips had touched. When he was done, he discreetly licked a stray drop of wine from my finger. "So that's it," he murmured, his voice too low for anyone else to hear. "You brought me to the banquet to use me as a shield, to deliberately embarrass your father and brother." His actions became even more affectionate, a public display for all to see. Under the table, his fingers brushed lightly, almost imperceptibly, against my thigh. I finally reached my limit. "That's enough," I whispered, my voice a tense. "Since you wish to use me, Master," Oliver whispered back, his lips close to my ear, "you should use me thoroughly." A rush of heat flooded my veins, the wine and his proximity making me dizzy. I knew he was tempting me, his motives as deep and dark as a well-butter Euros affection plus 10. The system let out an excited hiccup, startling me so much that my hand jerked. The wine glass slipped from my fingers, spilling its contents all over Oliver's lap. "Master, I'll go change my clothes," he said, rising smoothly to excuse himself. I stared blankly at his retreating back. Wait a minute. This time I didn't hit him or scold him. Why in the world did his affection level go up for no reason? Later, I sat alone by the stream in the back garden of the estate, letting the cold night wind clear my head. "Master, what are you doing out here?" Oliver had changed into a dark tunic, and as he stood on the opposite bank of the stream, he almost blended into the shadows of the night. I remained silent, tossing small stones into the water, each one landing with a dull plunk. After a long while, I finally looked up at him. "Did you get what you came for?" Oliver Euro's trade S figure went still. "So, you knew." "Of course, I knew. The cruel madam at the Berthella Euros, that was your doing, wasn't it? In private, she takes very good care of you. And saying you wanted to be my dog was just an excuse. A way to get close to me, to use me to gain entry into the Viscount's residence, because there's something you want from my father's study." In the darkness, I couldn't see his expression clearly, but I saw him shift his hands behind his back in a move I recognized as dangerously preparatory. "You knew all of this, and yet you still brought me to the banquet. You even deliberately spilled wine on me to give me an excuse to leave. Master, what exactly is your game?" I heard him laugh, a soft, chilling sound that made my heart pound. The system hadn't warned me about this. Was he going to kill me ahead of schedule? "Wait, I haven't finished," I started to say, but before I could utter another word, Oliver flicked his arm. A glint of silver shot across the stream, flying towards me at an impossible speed. A concealed weapon, moving so fast I had no time to dodge. That bastard! He was trying to kill me again. Just as I opened my mouth to curse him one last time, the silver light whizzed past my ear. Behind me, a black-clad figure dropped to the ground with a muffled thud. Oliver leaped across the stream, his feet barely seeming to touch the water, and in an instant he was standing before me. He was unarmed, but his movements were a deadly dance of punches and kicks. In the blink of an eye, the remaining assassins lay dead or dying around us. Most of my drunkenness evaporated on the spot. Oliver, ever calm, walked over to the first man he had dispatched and retrieved his hidden weapon. I took a closer look. It was the short needle from the collar. He really did make good use of it. He carefully wiped the blood from the needle and then nonchalantly tucked it back into its hidden sheath in the collar around his neck. He turned and saw my indescribable expression, a ghost of a smile playing in his eyes. A gift from my master. Even if it is a tool for killing, it should be cherished. It serves as a constant reminder that my master wants me dead. You're insane, I flushed, lifting my foot to kick him. Don't you want to kill your master, too? If that needle had been an inch off, I'd be a corpse right now. My kick connected, but Oliver didn't even budge. Instead, I lost my balance and tumbled backward into the stream with an undignified splash. That night, after my impromptu swim, I came down with a raging fever. In the hazy state between sleep and consciousness, fragments of my childhood resurfaced. I remembered living here, in the Yonjan Viscount's residence. My mother was still alive then, and she loved to bring me to these very rocks by the stream. We would spend entire afternoons here. On my 10th birthday, someone pushed me into the icy water. My cries for help went unheard. As my consciousness faded, as the world dissolved into a cold, dark blur, I vaguely saw a figure swimming desperately towards me. He pulled me from the water, his voice calling my name over and over, but my eyelids were too heavy. No matter how hard I tried, I could never make out his face. Master Euros, the voice pulled me from my dream. I frowned, slowly prying my eyes open. For a moment, the blurred figure from my memory seemed to overlap with a person standing over me. It's time to take your medicine. Oliver tested the temperature of my forehead with the back of his hand before helping me sit up. What about those assassins? I asked, my voice hoarse. Oliver immediately spooned some of the bitter liquid into my mouth. Master, just focus on getting well. I will handle it. I knew exactly who had sent them. The only person who would dare to stage an attack within the Viscount's own residence was my dear elder brother, William. I couldn't remember who had saved me all those years ago, but I remembered with perfect clarity the one who had pushed me. I never thought that after all this time, he would still favor such direct and brutal methods. Let Oliver deal with him. Neither of them would get away clean. I don't want any more. It's bitter, I said, turning my head away petulantly. The fever made me reckless. Oliver, stop this charade. You got what you wanted. You have the evidence of my father framing the Zir family. You don't need to keep playing the part of the loyal dog. Oliver remained silent, still holding the medicine bowl to my lips. I couldn't stand his calculating, patient demeanor. In a fit of temper, I swept my arm out, sending the bowl crashing to the floor. Everyone in this house is your enemy, and that includes me. Since you're going to kill me eventually, why did you even bother saving me? And you, he countered, his voice quiet but intense. Why did you help me? He looked directly into my eyes, and for a moment, I was rendered speechless. After a long, coughing fit, I finally managed to choke out, just doing you a favor. Master, you are a terrible liar. Suddenly, he cupped my face in his hands, his proximity making my mind go blank. Words I didn't intend to speak spilled from my lips. The Zir family was loyal and upright. They didn't deserve to be wronged and to die with such grievances. In an instant, something in Oliver Eurostrade's eyes ignited. A tidal wave of emotion surged within them. Since the Emperor's decree, no one had dared to suggest the Zir family was wronged, let alone praise them as loyal and upright. Oliver had been utterly alone in his quest for so long. Hearing those words now, it was as if he was being told that justice still existed in the world, that there were still people with a conscience. He couldn't hold it back any longer. He gently, tentatively kissed my lower lip. His mouth then trailed along my earlobe, down my neck, to my collarbone. But I was drowning in guilt. In my previous lives, I had been so terrified of death that my only goal was survival. I had tried to win him over while secretly hoping he would never find the evidence, never seek his revenge. I had tried to run to protect myself. Now, having finally accepted my inevitable death, I realized there were more important things than cowering in fear. Things like clearing the Zir family Eurostrade's name, and maybe, just maybe, living a little before the end. The sticky heat of the fever and the dizzying sensation of his kisses intertwined, and as dawn began to break, I finally lost consciousness. When I woke again, it was past noon. Surprisingly, after the night's turmoil, I felt refreshed. Oliver was gone, but the iron-ringed collar was lying on the bedside table. The sight of it made anger flare in my chest, and I snatched it up and hurled it across the room. It struck the person just entering the doorway. Awake! Oliver picked up the chain nonchalantly before pouring me a cup of tea. He seemed different today. Before, his submission had always felt like an act, his every word and deed a carefully constructed performance. But today, there was a glimmer of something genuine in his eyes. "This morning," he said, his voice casual, "William accidentally fell into the river. The tea I was drinking went down the wrong pipe." I stared at him, my eyes wide. He worked fast. After our encounter, did he really have the energy to go out and commit murder? In my past lives, William had never died this early. Does the master pity him? How could I? He got what he deserved. William was our father's favorite and was undoubtedly complicit in the plot against the Zir family. I thought so too. William pushed you into the water all those years ago. A death by drowning suits him best. I nodded in agreement, then paused, a sudden chill running down my spine. "How do you know about that?" Oliver didn't answer. He simply reached out with his thumb and gently wiped a drop of water from the corner of my mouth. "I also know that the master orchestrated a difficult situation for him back then in order to get revenge. Master, you are most charming when you never let a grudge go." He murmured the words against my lips. Desire, a look I was becoming far too familiar with, flickered in his eyes. "This is bad," I thought, and immediately told him to get lost. The bastard was relentless. Oliver caught the fist I swung at him and pressed an affectionate kiss to the back of my hand. "When the master has the intention to kill me, you are most like me. And that is when I find you most attractive." I was utterly stunned. "Oliver," I said, my voice completely serious, "I think you should take some medicine for your head." Unfortunately, Oliver stubbornly refused any treatment for his apparent insanity. For the next few days, he was busy dealing with the fallout from William's death. He was gone during the day but would appear in my chambers punctually every night. I grumbled that he was like a stray dog, always roaming, but secretly I let him be. Now that Oliver had the evidence, he needed time to plan his next move. A big one was coming soon. "Host, I have great news. The male lead's favorability has reached 70. I was lounging in a reclining chair under the osmanthus tree in the courtyard, lazily munching on sunflower seeds, when the system, which had been silent for ages, suddenly popped up. 70. That number was ridiculously high. "So, Oliver, You finally fell for it, I chuckled, crossing my legs nonchalantly. You killed me 6 times, pretended to be so heartless, but in the end, you still fell for me. Host, look at you, so giddy. Have you developed feelings for Oliver? Shut up, I snapped, my good mood evaporating instantly. I shoved a handful of shelled seeds into my mouth. Tonight, I decided I would make Oliver shell melon seeds for me all night long. But host, I must remind you, the system persisted. As long as his favorability doesn't reach 100, the mission is still a failure. You will still end up dead at his hands. If I die, I die. It's not my first time. Maybe I'll go stab him a few more times to vent my frustration before he gets me. Host, stop slacking off. The system screeched. Think about it. You finally gotten it to 70. Why not put in a little more effort? You know, give him a thriller euros, drug him, tie him up, force him toward euros. Stop right there. Cut out the self-serving garbage. This system was truly hopeless. I was about to correct its depraved line of thinking when someone burst through the courtyard gate. She was dressed in mourning clothes, her eyes bloodshot, and she began screaming the moment she saw me. James, get out here. It was Emmer, my stepmother. You have a perfectly good Viscount's residence to stay in. What are you doing here? I rocked my chair gently, too lazy to even stand. Inwardly, though, I was puzzled. This had never happened in my previous lives. James, your eldest brother is dead. Why aren't you in mourning? You are unfilial and unjust. You're worse than a beast. Mourning, I sneered. When my mother died, did you and your precious son offer a single sincere condolence? On the day of her burial, you wore a bright red dress under your mourning robes, and William was carrying on with a servant in the memorial hall. And now you have the gall to demand I mourn for him. I am already being benevolent by not smashing his memorial tablet to pieces. Emmer's face contorted with rage, and she lunged at me, clawing and scratching. It was you. It must have been you. You killed William. That's why you don't dare to face him. You're as low and vile as your mother was. Something inside me snapped. I threw her to the ground and pressed the tip of my sword against her collarbone. Emmer let out a terrified scream as blood blossomed on her white robes. If I ever hear you slander my mother again, I will send you to meet your precious son. She stared at me, her eyes filled with venom, and then she began to laugh, a crazed, unhinged sound. Fine. Since you're so filial, I'll tell you a secret. Emmer's pale lips began to move. I watched her, reading the words she formed, and my world tilted on its axis. I stood there, stunned into silence for a long time. The blood-stained sword fell from my nerveless fingers, clattering on the stone path. It was late when Oliver returned. I was still lying in the courtyard, osmanthus blossoms scattered across my chest. Master, why are you not inside? He frowned, taking in my thin robes. He removed his own outer garment and draped it over me. I didn't answer, just stared blankly into the night sky. He seemed to sense that something was wrong. He sat on the edge of the reclining chair, his warmth seeping through the fabric, making the wood creak. What happened? He whispered, pulling me into his arms. I shook my head, then grabbed his collar, rolling over to straddle him in one fluid motion. I kissed him, a tender, searching kiss. Oliver's eyes widened in surprise. A second later, he responded eagerly, his excitement so great that he bit my lip. Is this a reward for me, master? He murmured, his breath mingling with mine. The system was frantically announcing the rising favorability value. but its voice was a distant buzz. I couldn't hear a thing. "Master is very passionate today," Oliver whispered, holding me close. His hair smelled of osmanthus flowers. I was silent for a moment, then pulled away, getting up from his embrace. "Oliver Euros, could you not kill my father?" The tenderness on his face froze, shattering like glass. Despite the intimacy of our actions, we both knew the truth. The deep-seated, unyielding hatred between us was a thorn, lodged permanently in the space we occupied. Just because we never spoke of it didn't mean it wasn't there. And now I had just ripped that thorn out, roots and all, tearing open a chasm between us. "I thought," he said after a deathly silence, his voice laced with self-deprecating laughter, "that we were the same kind of people. It seems we are strangers after all, Lord James." Oliver returned to the brothel. The gossip mongers said he had failed to curry favor with young Master James, that he wasn't even good enough to be a dog, and was only fit to be trampled in the gutter. But I knew the truth. The brothel was his base of operations. The madam who so often beat and scolded him was, in reality, his most loyal agent, collecting information on high-ranking officials for him. He was just one step away from closing his net. In a dark alley, I used a sack and a thick cudgel to administer a beating to a group of men I overheard gossiping about him. Watching them scatter, I threw the cudgel aside and looked towards the distant entrance of the brothel, where Oliver was bowing and scraping before a wealthy patron. The collar I had given him was gone. "Host, what's the point of doing this where he can't see? It won't raise his favorability," the system piped up. "Shut up. I don't want to hear it." I didn't want to care about that cold, heartless number anymore. I turned and walked away. "Host, where are you going? This isn't the way home." "Who said I'm going home? From today on, I'm moving back to the Yunjin Viscount's residence. With William dead, and my father's other children still young, there was a power vacuum to be filled." When I returned to the estate, my father looked years older. His attitude towards me had softened considerably. Emma, for her part, avoided me, but whenever our paths crossed, she would give me a sinister, knowing smile before walking away. One day, my father brought up Oliver. He clearly suspected Oliver's involvement in William's death. "I heard you kicked Oliver out, and he has returned to the red light district. I will overlook Father Yoro's absurd display at the dinner party, but he is a pitiful child after all. Why don't you go and redeem him? Bring him back to the mansion as a servant. It will be a good way to account for our family's past connection to General Daniel." My father spoke with the earnest tone of a benevolent elder, and I had to suppress a sneer. He thought that keeping Oliver under his thumb would earn him a reputation for kindness while allowing him to find a way to quietly dispose of the last remnant of the Zier family. He was practically begging for an early death. "Forget it. Oliver is dirty and stubborn. He is unfit to be a servant in our mansion," I said, waving my hand dismissively. My father's face immediately darkened. "You will do as I say. Aren't you afraid of the rumors it will cause? The son of the Yunjin Viscount consorting with men from a brothel." He snorted, his disdain poorly concealed. "Haven't you been there often enough yourself?" he retorted. I was left speechless. When I saw Oliver again, he was all cold respect. He led me into a side room and then made to excuse himself. "Wait, what else does young Master James command?" he asked, his head bowed, refusing to meet my eyes. "My father wants me to redeem you and bring you back to the mansion. He must be suspicious about William's death." Oliver snorted, a sound that grated on my nerves. "What's this? A tip-off. Since you begged me not to kill Matthew, why the hypocrisy now? Oliver, do you really have to speak to me like this? I knew he wouldn't be pleasant, but his sharp words still ignited my temper. Oh, then pray tell, young Master James, how should I speak? He had completely dropped the subservient act, revealing the fierce, sinister man beneath. After all, I am dirty and tough, unfit to serve a noble young master like you. The anger that had been about to erupt was suddenly extinguished. I touched my nose, feeling a pang of guilt. You got the news quickly. He must have spies in the residence. I was just trying to make him give up the idea of redeeming you, Oliver. I don't believe for a second you couldn't tell what I was doing. I am slow-witted. I could not tell. Fine, fine. You're not dirty or tough. I was talking nonsense. He looked at me then, his eyes glinting. So I am not tough. How could he say something like that with a straight face, even when he was furious? I was about to argue back, but he had already turned and walked away without another word. On the day of my father's birthday, I tried to go to his study but was stopped by several unfamiliar guards. They informed me that the Viscount was meeting with an important guest and could not be disturbed. Who cares about some important guest that dares to stop me? I grumbled, my dissatisfaction creating a commotion that alerted those inside. The study doors swung open. The guards instantly dropped to their knees. When I saw the first person to step out, I froze, then hastily fell to my own knees. Greetings to your majesty. My father rushed to my side, pleading for me, claiming it was an unintentional mistake, but I ignored him. I looked straight at the emperor and let the words I had been holding in for so long pour out. Your majesty, since I have the honor of seeing you today, I earnestly request a re-examination of the case regarding the Dzir family's embezzlement. The subject was taboo. The moment I finished speaking, a deathly silence fell over the hall. Only the crown prince, who stood silently beside the emperor, gave me a long, considering look. Before I could say more, my father kicked me hard in the shoulder and bellowed an order for the servants to give me 30 lashes. The long whip, soaked in salt water, lashed mercilessly across my back. I gritted my teeth, enduring the searing pain as sweat beaded on my forehead. 10 euros, 11 euros, the servant counted mechanically as the emperor watched from his chair, his face a cold mask. The pain made me hunch over, barely able to remain kneeling. Just as I was about to collapse, a guard propped me up with a wooden staff, forcing my back straight for the next blow. The piercing agony dug into my flesh. I bit my lip until it bled and stubbornly repeated, I earnestly request a re-examination of the case of the Dzir family's embezzlement. A teacup shattered on the floor in front of me. I heard the emperor's cold snort, and the whipping grew even more severe. In a daze of pain, my thoughts drifted to Oliver. So this is what it feels like. This kind of pain is truly unbearable. And I wondered, with a strange, fleeting clarity, how he ever could have found it exciting. And so, under the cold gaze of the emperor, I endured the lashing, my defiance a desperate plea for justice I myself had once been complicit in ignoring. My fate and Oliver's now hangs precariously in the balance, suspended by the thinnest of threads. But what do you think will happen now? Can a bond forged in such pain and deception ever truly heal? Or are they destined to destroy each other? Let me know your theories down in the comments. If you were captivated by James and Oliver's twisted story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of love, betrayal, and revenge. We'll see you in the next one.